Lots of you have asked this question, so I'm here to make a video on it. Welcome back to my channel. Follow me over on Instagram at EMWILSS. Telling your parents you're dating someone. This might be a parent, right? You might only have your mom in your life. You might only have your dad in your life. You might have both parents in your life, and a lot of this depends on how you communicate with your parents. What I'm going to say in this video applies to people whose parent or parents are in... My husband texted me, "I love you." That's so sweet. Dear, I love you too. And now I need to turn the sound off on my phone. What was I saying? What I'm going to say in this video applies if your parent or parents are involved in some way, shape, or form, and you want to tell them or should tell them that you are dating someone. So how do I tell them? I just don't know what to say, and I don't know how to go about doing that. So here we go. You don't have to call your parents and tell them about every date you ever go on. Oh, this week I'm going on a date with Brandon, and then, that didn't work out. Okay. Oh, I met a guy named, Steve, and we're going on a date. You don't have to do that if you don't want to. Say the guy you're dating is named Steve. Hi, Steve. I think that when you're in an official relationship and Steve becomes your boyfriend, it's a really good time to tell your parents about the relationship that you're in. Something that's important is being open about it early on. The more open you are about it, the more comfortable it makes it to talk about it. Letting your parents in, if this is something you're comfortable with, into what's going on in your life, it can be a good and positive thing. So many girls, how do I tell them? I get that you might want to just get it over with and be like, "Mom, I have a boyfriend and I just wanted you to know, okay, bye, see you later." That it's not like an off the cuff kind of thing. It's really important to give this conversation the time that it deserves in order for you to kind of say everything that you want to say, and then your parents to ask questions or talk about what they want to talk about, which I'll get to in a minute. How do I tell them? Super easy. Mom or dad, or mom and dad together, there's something going on in my life that I really want to tell you about. And that's how you tell them. Hey, I got some news. There's a development going on in my life that I really want to tell you about and be open about with you. His name is Steve. We met at such and such a place. I really like Steve because X, Y, and Z. And I think that's a really cool place to come from in your relationship with your parents, to be upfront and open and honest with them so that they feel included in your life. Again, this is given that your parents are involved in your life in some way. And I think that builds trust between both parties, which is something that can be challenging as well, but something that's really important to work towards. They will have questions about where you met and what you like about him. For instance, a question they might ask you, which is something I tell you in my book, Go Bravely, to ask yourself is, why are you dating this person? And you probably know your mom or your dad far better than I would. And you can kind of think in advance as you prepare to have this conversation with them about what kind of questions they might ask you. That's another important thing. Don't lie about where you met Steve or whatever it is, because I've seen situations like this where you think like, oh yeah, Steve's my boyfriend, and then it gets more and more serious. It comes down the road that you want to marry Steve, but everyone thinks you met Steve at a place where you didn't actually meet Steve, because in that conversation with your parents they say, "Where did you meet Steve?" And you don't want to say, Steve and I met on Bumble. So you make up this whole story about you and Steve like running into each other at the mall, and then you have to navigate down the road. How are we gonna untangle this web of lies about how we met? You will thank yourself later if you do end up marrying Steve that you were upfront from the beginning. Another note in that conversation, at any point in your life, it is a red flag if you are ashamed to talk about the guy that you are dating. If you're not proud to be dating this guy, if you're not proud to talk about him, if you're not, comfortable talking about who he is and what kind of guy he is, you probably shouldn't be dating him. This has nothing to do with his work or his achievements, right? If he's a hardworking man, whatever job he holds, I don't care what it is, there's nothing to be embarrassed about in that way. If you are ashamed to talk about his activities or who he is or what he's like, red flag, definitely something to step back and be like, the one for me, I probably wouldn't be ashamed to talk about him or answer questions about him. Also, it's important to remember in this conversation that depending on where you are in your relationship, you might not have the answer to every question that your parents might ask you. And it's okay to say, we are just getting to know each other. We've been dating for X amount of months, and I'm still learning about him, so I don't know the answer to that question yet. Perfectly okay to say. And then the step after that, should they meet him? Yes, I think that it's a very positive thing once you've made this clear that you're in a relationship with this guy, to bring him to meet your parents. You guys decide that that's comfortable for the two of you together. It will be maybe a little awkward for you at first when he first comes over to get to know your parent or parents, but I think this is a really important step because your parents are gonna want to know about this guy that you're dating, especially if they love you and wanna be involved in your life. Some of them will wanna know in a nosy, over overbearing way. But a lot of times it's just they want to know who you're dating and they want to get to know him genuinely and they want to get to know about him. And the more you put it off, right? Like if you're like, oh no, I won't bring him around until we're dating for a year, then it's this big thing like, oh my gosh, today's the day you're gonna meet my mom, and there's all this pressure and there's all this stress. If you make this relationship known early on and you just bring him around casually, it's way less stressful. Way less stressful. And you can make everybody feel comfortable by saying, hey, we're all gonna meet, Steve's gonna come over for dinner, this will be the day, and I can't wait for everyone to meet each other. And then you just go from there. So those are my tips. I hope that some of this helps. I think that it can be an awkward, stressful thing, especially if it's your first boyfriend and you're like, oh my gosh, I don't know how to tell my parents. But I think just approaching it with openness and honesty and just being upfront about how you feel about why you're dating this guy, that you are dating not just to like willy-nilly, but like this is something you've seriously considered and thought about. To communicate that to your parent or parents is something that I think is really beneficial and helpful in the long run. And I think that taking the initiative to be open with your parents is always a positive thing. If you have any tips to add, leave those in the comments below. I would love to hear from you. I always love hearing from you. That's all for today. Talk to you soon.